Now, we've got a Hollywood story with a difference for you this morning. The actor Bradley Cooper has been criticised for wearing a prosthetic nose in his upcoming biopic, Maestro, in which he stars as the late Jewish composer and conductor Leonard Bernstein.
Now, the debut of the teaser prompted discussion on social media, with critics saying it's fueling some anti-Semitic stereotypes.
So this morning, we're asking, did Bradley Cooper need a prosthetic nose to play the role, and is he fueling anti-Semitic stereotypes? Well, we're joined this morning by Hilary Freeman, who's a journalist and author.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, journalist and author, as well as the journalist Josh Kaplan. There we go. Good morning to you both. I want to start with you, Hilary, because this is clearly a highly sensitive issue. Do you think it was necessary for Bradley Cooper to have a prosthetic nose?
No, absolutely not. The whole point about acting is that you make people believe that you are the character. You don't need to turn yourself into a caricature in order to do that. Bradley Cooper hasn't got a particularly small nose as it is. I think it's totally unnecessary, and it's just detracted from the film and from, what might be good about it, and his acting as well.
Josh, I mean, look, that's a perfectly valid point. But after having seen the pictures, it doesn't seem... I'd struggle to describe it as a caricature. I mean, is it just prosthetics being used to make him look more like the man himself?
Yeah, that's how I see it. I personally think that, when actors take on these roles, we have a tendency to really overthink these things, and I think sometimes it's just a piece of costume work, and I think it's, in this case, portraying Leonard Bernstein's face, which, as his children said yesterday in a statement they posted on Instagram, he had, quote, a nice big nose. So I think...
Yeah. And look, and I think it's worth pointing out, isn't it, that you're both Jewish.
Yeah.
So this is, which I think is, it's really important, because this is, and especially in the world we're living in at the moment, this has to be handled very sensitively. You've got to look at these things in a delicate way. But would you say, Hilary... Well, you said it was a caricature. It's not what you would necessarily describe as a stereotypical image, though. I mean, aren't they simply just trying to make this actor look more like a real person, the man himself?
Well, why do they need to do that? John Lennon had a big nose. Aaron Taylor-Johnson played him. He looked nothing like him. People who, actors have played Jesus for, years, and none of them ever look anything like Jesus would have looked like. You don't need to look exactly like the person you're playing to play a good part. And I think, you said about the it's not a stereotypical nose. And I think that's the point. There is no such thing as a stereotypical Jewish nose. That is a racist stereotype. There are Jews with big noses, Jews with small noses, non-Jews with big noses, non-Jews with small noses. And research has shown that Jews have no bigger noses than anybody else, even though there is this stereotype.
No, but Leonard Bernstein had a big nose. And so they've given him a big nose.
Well, but why? But Bradley Cooper already has a fairly big nose. He doesn't need to put on another nose in order to make himself look more like Leonard Bernstein. It's not a lookalike competition. It's acting.
It's fascinating because we talk about acting and then it broadens the debate, doesn't it, Josh, into whether or not actually you have to either be Jewish to play a Jewish role, whether you have to be gay to play a gay role. I mean, certainly if you were to be a white person playing a black role, there would be an uproar, would there not, if you made your face look black. So is it not the same for Bradley Cooper? Is he not promoting anti-Semitic stereotypes here?
I think this idea that only Jews can play Jewish roles is a little bit silly. I think, frankly, if you look at some of the best performances of Jewish characters from history, you've got Sir Ben Kingsley, who played Itzhak Stern in Schindler's List. You've got Daniel Craig, who was in the film Munich. You've got Jason Biggs from American Pie. These people can play these Jewish characters incredibly well. And I think when you make these hard and fast rules, what you say is we're a separate minority, we're special, we don't want you coming into our turf. And I think that ultimately just leads to worse and worse films.
What do you think, Hilary, on that?
I don't think that only Jews should be able to play Jews, because in that case you would end up with saying, well, only non-Jews can play non-Jews. Then you limit people to playing what they are and nothing else. But I do think that when a character is defined by their Jewishness in some way, when they're a sort of a giant of the religion, of the culture, that maybe then it is more important that somebody Jewish plays a part. And there was a Jewish actor up for this part. Jake Gyllenhaal was going to do this part, and he ultimately didn't get it. So, that for me, that might have been a better casting.
Yeah, but here's the thought then. If Jake... part of the issue with this that I have is, I had no idea Jake Gyllenhaal was Jewish. I had no idea that Bradley Cooper wasn't Jewish. It's just... so it's sort of... As for me, as a sort of standard viewer, I had no idea. However, if Jake Gyllenhaal had got that part, Hilary, and they decided that to give him prosthetics to make him look more like Bernstein, would you have had an issue with that?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I would, because you don't need. I still just think you do not need to wear prosthetics to be a good actor, and that when you do add prosthetics, it does make someone into more of a caricature. And the problem with caricature is that it veers very close to stereotype.
OK. Josh, final thought?
Yeah, I just think if you start banning people from wearing prosthetics, why not say they don't need costumes? They can just portray themselves and their acting will shine through in the clothes they're supposed to be. I think it's a silly argument.
OK.
OK.
Josh Kaplan, Hilary Freeman, an interesting debate. Thank you for your perspectives.